As we gather a second time to study and discuss C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters, we'll be considering letters 11 through 20 this time. In these letters, again, a host of concerns arise, but one emphasis will be the place of the appetites, the desires, and in particular, the way in which one of the key diabolical devices of the tempter is to take the good gift of God, our passion, our desire, our longing for earthly goods, true goods, to lead that to be distorted, to be disordered, to be out of whack with our greater love of God. We see this in a host of ways. Letter 12 reminds us explicitly that the great matter is the extent to which the subject can be removed from the presence of God. And as we see throughout these letters, Screwtape counsels young Wormwood to use a range of methods or instruments to draw Christian men and women away from their Maker and Redeemer. The goal is subtly, typically through good things, not obviously bad or evil things, to draw our attention elsewhere, to lead our passions to disorder. We see this in a host of ways. Letter 15 will commend the importance of drawing our attention away from the eternal by overwhelming us with alerts about the momentary, the daily, the earthly concerns of our lives. I think in a world where we now know the 24-hour news cycle and the reality of carrying a whole world of knowledge within a device in our pocket at every moment, we can sense the remarkable power of that diabolical device to draw our attention only to the now, the present, the earthly. Screwtape goes on, though. In letter 17, he commends the use of gluttony, the passion for earthly goods, food, drink, and the like, the good gifts of God, to lead us to long for too much of a good thing, and in so doing to hinder us from having the capacity to deny ourselves, to control ourselves, to discipline ourselves in using lesser goods for the sake of a greater spiritual and eternal good. Ironically enough, by the end, Screwtape in letters 18 and 20 will be talking about how marital love itself, one of God's greatest gifts, and a sign of the gospel of Christ's love and union with his church, how that marital love can even become disordered, how we can be overly focused upon romantic or sexual union, a provision of God, a good reality, a necessity for human society, procreation, and the upbuilding of the church, and yet another place where the tempter can thwart us, not only by drawing us away toward evil pursuits, but by leading us to undue fixation upon lesser goods. Lewis here longs to counsel us. He writes to moderns, to relatively wealthy persons with so many blessings and resources at hand. How much more many of us in a world that's continued to develop and advance technologically and socially, we might be targets for such temptation. We might be easily distracted or led to disordered appetite and desire in these and so many other ways. Reading these letters, attentive to that concern about the appetite, the desire, the passion that can be led too deeply and too far into its pursuit of goods, how that can lead us away from the greatest good, God himself. This ought to inspire us, not only to watch for that thread across these letters, but to imagine how that thread lands and tempts each of us in our everyday existence. What are those occasions, not where we're led into obvious sin, but we're led to fixate too much on things that are too small? Here we can see Lewis's demonic warnings to a younger tempter overlapping with a famous teaching from that sermon, The Weight of Glory, where Lewis, addressing his Oxford audience, famously spoke of how we're far too easily pleased. The demons know this, and they long to draw our attention elsewhere. They desire to take our God-given appetites and passions, and worse, the God-given provisions of food and drink and politics and marriage and this beautiful creation, and to help us make idols, to make lesser gods, and in so doing to miss so very much of the great God and King. As we read, as we study, as we prayerfully consider and then gather for discussion, let's be alert to all the ways in which Lewis observes our hearts being drawn to so many things, sometimes in subtly unhelpful ways. Let's also be alert to all the ways unnamed in these letters but present in our contemporary existence, ways in which we might imagine Lewis updating his text were he to write it in years such as ours. I look forward to those discussions with you this month.